just so
And a
we
cheerful
know.
good morning to one and all. I want to welcome the visitors to another meeting of the Barnstable County Commissioners. And by the way, later on we ought to talk about some of the advice we got at that Saturday meeting that we should change ourselves to the Cape Cod County. But that's that's something we should put on the docket. But that's another thing.
Right.
And I would like people to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I would like you all to join us in a moment of silence as we think about both the troubles that we're having in the world where our soldiers are very much close to being in more harm's way, and also to recognize the service of those who have served and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you very much. And our first agenda item today, I believe, is to, let's see, do we have public comment? And looking out at the vast sea of faces, I don't see anybody raising their hand, so therefore
Yeah, how come you're
I
not panning that to say?
we'll go on from there to the next item on our agenda is to start to think about
Resource development.
we have budget items to look at, and although there's a few minutes before, do you think we might
Summary of actions. We have the
that?
summary of actions.
Have you all had an opportunity to look at that? It seems to be
Yes.
pretty straightforward.
I took a look at it yesterday.
I would move the summary of actions.
Okay.
Second.
And are there all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. We can start signing.
Thank you.
Okay, and while
we have commissioners' actions as well that we could do.
yeah, we could probably chat about that. All of us were.
We have to approve all these separate things as
Oh,
well.
separate things?
Approval
Yes.
of the minutes, ratify actions taken by the administrator.
I
Yeah.
thought those are all part of the needs action.
No, those are on the last page.
Maybe one for the supervisors. I think these are add-ons, are they not?
Okay.
No, they're actually different from the summary.
I always, in recalling, there is if you take a look at the first page where we look at the minutes, does there not have, as far as
Well, these actions are different.
Yeah, these were
because-
added. These were addendums.
Well, we've already done the minutes because we did those in the actions, but these
Yeah.
are things, remember, that we delegated to the
That's
administrator.
right.
It used to be
You're right.
ours, and
Indeed,
now
indeed
we
we
have to
did.
ratify those actions.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
that's right.
So that's what they are.
All right, I guess I was put off because there was an approval of an out-of-state travel request on this, and there was an approval of an out-of-state travel request on that. And I guess I don't know if it's the same one. But I would entertain a motion to approve the...
I will put forward that we accept and approve the commissioner's actions as listed on the agenda.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. All right. We have a few minutes. Do you want to talk about what we found out on Saturday?
Yes.
Okay. Sheila, you were there.
I was there. You alluded to the fact that they think that we should be known as Cape Cod Regional Government, which I did point out in one of my notes that in the charter review under 2 sessions ago, not the one that just went through and sort of cleaned up language, but the one prior to that was passed under Speaker Bernardo, the Assembly at the time, did actually state that the name of county government was the
Cape Cod Regional Government.
Cape Cod Regional Government.
And we are regional commissioners.
And we are regional commissioners. And I do think that, even though that was passed, it never was sort of PR'd out there. Like we have a new brand, a branding name. And maybe we should consider doing something like that to let people know that...
well, if you look at your ID card, it says Cape Cod Commissioner.
Yes.
And I think that's what it says. It doesn't say Regional Commissioner, it says Cape Cod Commissioner. That's what the ID card says. But you're right. You know what I think we should do? Instead of taking something separately, if you recall, Elliot Carr got up and with the Business Roundtables report, and he He was proposing that a commission be formed to
I think it's
look
an
at the
excellent
report
idea.
and all of that. And Rob O'Leary then says, wait a minute, no. You don't want another commission. You were like the commission. You need to get the people who are responsible for this to get together.
Oh, I thought he was talking about the regional office, the Office of Regional Services.
I thought he was talking about the Americorps report.
Americorps is presenting a new charter review.
That's what he was doing.
Right.
Okay. And my recollection is that when the Office of Regional Affairs was brought up, that we've been talking about putting into our budget, that's when Rob O'Leary said, "You're already elected to do that, and we should move forward with it." And I believe that there's some there's some merit in that, perhaps what we need to look at is we already have the RDO is coming in this morning, Resource Development Office, and perhaps we should look at that as a vehicle to, let's say, to find out what kind of resources that they would need in order to provide that oversight.
Well, what I think we should do is, I think we should have a copy of the report, which we probably have somewhere.
No, we haven't. I don't think they haven't submitted it.
Well, if they would submit the report to us, then maybe we should bring in Paul Nitzwicki and Mark and Maggie, and maybe some of the department heads, and we should take a look at this report and analyze it and see how we can best move forward with it. I realize that some of it is charter recommendations, but we need, I think, as a county government to look at it and say, what do we agree to on this? And invite Elliot to come in too, as we discussed it, and anybody else from the Business Roundtable. But to really have kind of like in a workshop setting, let's talk about this report, see what the values are, see what our own department staff have to say about it. We could have like a forum to review it instead of just taking it and sending it. That, I don't know.
Well, I think there's a lot of merit in that, but there's also, we have a process that that's underway right now, the organizational assessment, and part of the response that we would make to a workshop is, as you've said many times, is to have a complete, in-depth understanding of who we are with regard to what we have accomplished, and then out of the recommendation as to, it would be my opinion that you could then make a judgment as to what we had found out about ourselves and compare that to what the Business Roundtable is recommending, and in that way we might might go on a path. Would we be predisposed to change the recommendations that come out of the organizational assessment if we looked at the Business Roundtable report in, let's say, in a different context, away from that? That's one of the questions. How does this all fit together?
Why can't we do it all at the same time?
Well,
I mean, bring in Elliot, have a discussion about what they see, and then as we move forward on the organizational assessment, take out of what they're suggesting that's good, that we think will work, and fold it into. But I don't think you can treat them separately.
If I could make just two comments before we get started here. I think that what the Business Roundtable is looking at is that they came to the charter review, they gave their recommendations as what they thought the county should do. I spoke to Rob O'Leary during that time. I know that they did about how he saw county government and how it maybe could function better. And I think what they're proposing is that outside the Charter Review Committee that is appointed through the Assembly, by the Assembly, and with members of the Assembly, of which would then have to maybe vote against itself if they wanted to make substantial changes in looking at the vote weight, the body membership of the commissioners, as there should be 3, should there be 5, should there be whatever. So I think what they're asking is for an appointment of an independent group to take a look at the charter and have somebody like Rob O'Leary and Henri Rauschenbach chair that committee.
Well, those are the two that they had suggested.
They had suggested. So
they also suggested a commissioner and an assembly member.
Right, and I think, and all of that, I think that's all well and good. So those are the things, I think we should have them come
what
in.
Pat is suggesting.
Right, I think we should have them come in, explain to us exactly what it was they have been doing, what it is they're requesting, and then if it's within legal bounds, I mean, I think any citizen can petition and put out a legislative, to get something on a legislative ballot. So if they want to independently do that, they can. And number two, as far as the Office of Regional Coordination, that is money, we are supposed to do that. I think what we're requesting is a certain amount of money to be available to us when we see those requests come in for regional services, such as, right now, the town of Wellfleet would like to explore building inspectors. So he has one that's that's gone, you know, he's got a new job, and he really doesn't want to hire, but he's willing to give money to the county, you know, up to $50,000, if we would take on that person that we could then regionalize.
Well,
the
problem with that is that that's, you know, Wellfleet has a specific problem, and
well, there's a couple of other, there's a few other towns that have the same problem. So those are things that when those types of requests are posed to us, we then have the money to say we can either study the feasibility of this, or we can partner with this and do a pilot program, whatever. But to put it under a department, I think as those requests come in, then we can choose. Right now, the whole technical assistance, all of these requests for studies, that technical assistance really has been going through the commission. Some of these requests could go through there, some of them we might request the help of RDO or whatever.
Well,
but I think what we want is that money to be under our names, to what we can use at our discretion.
Our names being
the Cape Cod Commissioners. So it's in our line item that we have that money available to take on things when we choose, and we can then decide how we're going to look at those studies or requests.
You know, that's interesting, because I remember
don't think we have to log it into
suggesting, you know, years ago in a budget that commissioners be given discretionary money to do these kinds of studies.
Absolutely.
That was about 10 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
I remember voting
Not
against
more,
it.
but I think that that is a very good thing to do, and it could be under the Office of Regional Coordination, and it can be designated that it's
No,
deemed for
not
these.
the office. What I'm
but a
suggesting, I
discretionary
guess we have to
fund.
ask Doreen, because my thought was that since we already have grant management and grant development within the RDO, that would be the logical place that would, you know, that we would use as a focus, and it would be, and we wouldn't have a layer between us and whoever would be doing it at the you know, at the Cape Cod Commission. My concern is that if we are going to ensure that it's successful, that we have the responsibility, you know, the responsibility remains and resides with us until we can show and demonstrate that, you know, that we're applying the funds in a useful way.
Well, that's why I think that we have to have it, and if we choose the Cape Cod Commission to assist us in a study, because a grant study and technical assistance, as far as what are the things you're going to look at, how do you, what are the layers of this onion that you would have to study and look at, those types of things, I think, because of traffic, because of whatever those jobs entail, all of them have some sort of relationship, you know, with us through the commission. So
Sure,
I mean,
my point is that that the grant folks that work over the RDO have an existing relationship with the towns for the purpose of supporting them.
Right.
And because of that, that's to me where let's say some of that should reside, and it would give us, let's say, more direct contact. Whereas the Cape Cod Commission does not have that same relationship in terms of delivery of services. So that's all, you know.
Yeah,
and now that we've been talking about.
Well, I agree, but I think that for us to have that money, not to designate that it's going to presuppose who we're going to enlist to help it, but to say this is money that we have as discretionary funds for these purposes when those times come to us, when those instances arise, that we have that money available to say, you know what, let's look into this, and then we can choose. If we lock ourselves into one way or another, then we're locking it in, and then we might say, you know what, they're not
Remember,
really
this
the
is
right
public
person.
money, though, and the Assembly could legitimately raise the issue of, you're asking us to give you discretionary money, and you're not being specific about how you're going to apply it.
We will be specific once we go to apply it. Once we use those funds, we can come out and say, just to let you know, out of the funds that we have, we are now pursuing this study or something. I don't think it has to be false.
The other thing is we could ask RDO if this were an activity that you might be able to perform, how would you go about it? What would be, how would you respond?
But
But I think the basic premise
I know,
we
I
should have on all of this truly is, how can we make it work?
We don't know what you're talking about, because I came in
Okay.
same time before Darlene. I don't
so
know.
what
Well,
do
we're
we-
talking about
Okay.
the meeting last Saturday.
Last Saturday,
And
the
the-
issue was raised on the Office of Regional Coordination, which which we've been talking about, and we had intended to let's say, to put forward some initiative on this year's budget to get Assembly support. The issue becomes, for me, is to where this control of this money would reside at the first level. I believe it should be under the county commissioners, one, and two, because of observation. I had seen that the RDO with the grant management and the grant development piece has a connection and a reputation for delivery on services that the towns have been interested in, and might be the better place to put it, because part of my concern is that in putting it in place, if the county commissioners take personal responsibility for the delivery of the service, I think we have to have it directly under our control and not through someone, but just but taking a look at what I would call the ordinary way that we're delivering support services to the towns right now comes through the was it Phil and who's the other guy? Greg. Phil and Greg are in constant contact with the towns with regard to the things that they're interested in pursuing. So since that's already there, and they would have what I would call some institutional knowledge about what the towns have been talking about and have an interest in, this might be a way to initiate the, let's say, the actual application of this and deliver the service. So, yeah. But before you could put that requirement, which is an additional requirement on any office, I think we have to make assets available in order to support that.
If I may just ask a couple of questions. Is the intent to establish a pool of funds for grants to provide directly to the towns to accomplish a regional service, or to aggregate a service to be provided by, such as the building inspector, where 4 people would hire?
We haven't even defined
okay.
that yet.
Then I think that
it was a discussion that came up on Saturday.
But I think it's premature to ask to look at where it goes.
Right, I agree.
We've had an informal request from the lovely town administrator to take a look at the beginning process for region. No, we're not bringing this up today.
Well, I was asked to bring it up under my report today to you, because I had
a
specific request from Paul Selo. So.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And that's how we got on this. But we really can't make decisions about it.
Okay, got it. I agree with you. I think you should just get on to the agenda.
I agree.
And it's 9:30, and here we are.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Donnie?
Good. Glad you came.
Good. Should I come
Chairman?
up, or am I supposed to stay back here?
You can
do
pull your
whatever.
chair up
Okay.
and talk to us and tell us what's going on.
Everybody has a copy of the Resource Development Office budget. It's in front of you.
Mr. Chairman, would you introduce Darlene for our viewers, please?
Of course. This is Darlene Johnson Morris. Morris. And she is the department head of the Resource and Development Office, in which resides the grant management activity as well as the Americorps connection for Barnstable County.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. So, I don't know exactly how we're going through, line by line, or...
They've actually, if I would just start by asking if you have any questions on the goals and objectives. If not, you can go right into the meat and potatoes, which are the personnel schedule and the budget.
Well, and there is one other thing, and perhaps you could do this when you sum up, which is always look for what you consider to be the most important issue that the one, I guess, your line in the sand, that this is, we must do this.
One of the only increases in our budget over the last few years with the flat budgeting has been we've maintained our grant writing fund, the cash match that we use to match the grants. I think that has been very successful I put that on a document for you to see,
Yeah.
so that you can see how the cash match helps leverage and bring in additional grants. So that's been successful. That's the only, I think there's we continue to put that in, and that's one of the things I hope will carry forward.
Well, I must say that my observation is that has been a very successful program. The towns really appreciate the fact that when our folks show up to help them, that when it comes to that particular piece of it, that helps their request become successful. So I would say that that
really does, because the towns can't, when they're putting in these proposals, more than likely they do not have the ability to put in a cash match at that point.
I think it's important to note, Darlene, that those funds, which is an increase from $13,500 to $20,000, are actually only used when you've got a grant leveraged other money. So if all of our grants were unsuccessful, the line would sit there. But if we bring in $100,000 worth of grants, we've used 20 to access X. So it's important to note that it only draws down when you receive a grant.
How many grants do you do? I mean, how many requests are there usually in a year for assistance? Do you have a?
It's hard to gauge. It depends. I mean, we probably average 3 or 4 grants a month that we're working on, and it can increase depending on.
I'd be interested in seeing what type of assistance the town.
Sure. I mean, we can put in. I mean, it can run from technical assistance to actually, a grant or sitting in on. A lot of what we do that really doesn't get a lot of the attention is people do not come a lot of times with their idea developed,
right.
What they're going to do. They've either found a funding source and they want to go after it in some way to build their capacity, but they haven't really developed their idea, or they have a great idea and they don't have the funding source. So we'll be working on that portion of it.
Darlene, don't you have a book, because I've seen it, and this would be maybe for Sheila's benefit, that shows you what we've gone after,
right.
And what we've received, what we were denied on. But I don't know if it's current, but that could give you a snapshot.
I always bring you, the grant development, which I brought today too. It tells you what's pending, what we've gone after, what's been.
Oh, good. Now, I'd be curious about the commonalities in terms of requests from towns.
Right.
Are some of them very similar, or are they all just totally different? I mean, and if there are similar and there are commonalities in what they're looking for, that might be a subject for some regionalization.
Exactly. Where you can then bring, gee, we got the same request from this other town.
Well, we'll
and somehow
do that.
Trying to connect those and bring those to our attention and say, this is a need that's out there that's being expressed by several towns that could probably maybe be serviced in a regional way.
Well, that's what Darlene does and her staff when we have an identified funding source and they're looking for a regional applicant. So as opposed to 7 towns each submitting their own, RDO has in the past pulled them and applied for a common grant on behalf of multiple entities.
But sometimes there's a need where there's a service that we can then look at. This is something that the county maybe could provide. Instead of looking elsewhere, can we look inside and say, this is where we can fill that need? Sometimes it won't be the county, but sometimes it will be, and that will be able to start those types of regional coordinate.
One thing we've heard over and over again, and we've really never had the capacity to do this. I mean, Maggie and I started off years ago when we would sit in Bourne on Tuesdays and Truro on Thursdays, and we would try to help some of the towns with some technical assistance on grant management. Because oftentimes we will apply for grants and they don't have the somebody like the resource development in their town.
Right. A full-time person that can focus
Very
on
few of the towns do.
Exactly.
And then they get into the auditors and then the grants are there, or they haven't spent the money the way they should, or we are not understanding sometimes why we didn't get a grant because we feel like this was a really well-written grant. It's really needed. But if you have grants that you haven't spent down, properly with that funder, you already have points against you. You may not even know that these grants have been on the books. So I do know that there was a time when we were doing, we went with the town of Warren and did a grant management workshop and helped them develop binders like we do for their management of their grants. Generally, they don't have a person to stay on top of this or one person assigned to it, so it falls by the wayside. But that's one thing we do here, or we talk with the towns frequently about.
And indeed, that's what, part of my, my thinking when I started talking about who would be a, I'd say a reasonable, place, let's say, to take a look at both the initiation and management of a regional effort, because that sort of ties, sort of segues out of, if you take a look at these trends, that might be a way of, let's say, initiating, the question. I see you've done a lot on grant management training on the last page.
And those are by request, the town of Barnstable.
If I may just capture on that, I don't want to go back onto the path you started on, but you have to, just if you go back a little bit on regional services, how it has operated in the past, and if you just focus on one example, Bill, because I think you're kind of touching on it, is when we were providing health agent services to multiple towns. There was a need for, health beyond the normal vacancies which we fill through our health department. Several towns actually had difficulty filling or couldn't afford full-time health agents. So what we did is we put together, it was a Barnstable County employee that was paid for by the participating towns. They were direct bills for 100% of the cost. And the project was overseen by the appropriate department, because that makes the most sense. If it's a health department issue, it was in the health department. If it was a planning issue, it could be the commission or whatever the department was. But resource development managed the grant. They were responsible, correct me if I'm wrong, this is going back a couple of years.
Yeah,
when we had
you're talking about the contracts?
Right.
Yeah, they were contracts.
Right, but that's what they would, but the contract was with the town for the regional service. The body was an employee of the county. The body was managed by the department that it was most appropriate, meaning, so you didn't put it with, I'll pick me, you didn't put it with Cape Light Compact. If it was a health agent, you put an energy person with the Cape Light Compact health, so the bodies were dispersed throughout the county, but the actual, the fiscal management of the contracts was the responsibility of RDO, which is what we established RDO for. So they managed, they billed the towns, but the actual day-to-day oversight belonged in
the department that it fell under.
And that makes sense.
Total
And then over
sense.
time, when that need ended, it went away, and then so just remember what you had. It worked, I thought, very well.
Yeah.
But so
Exactly.
I think that's what you were trying to bring up, but you guys were kind of crossed.
Yes.
So anyway, just a
That was my
background.
recollection.
That's how RDO's role has always been on administering and managing regional projects, especially when it involves multiple towns. They did the billing, they did the management, but the actual function went where it made the most sense, where there was...
This might be also a time to suggest that the email we got from Patty Daly, I believe we got a copy of this morning, that talked about a new regional bill.
Right, that's what the governor announced at MMA. I think all of us were there.
right.
Yeah.
There's a...
Eldridge is the one that's sponsoring the Senate.
Right.
That perhaps we should send that on to Doreen to have her take a look.
Darlene.
How long have we known each other? 12?
I don't know, Tom. How long have you known?
Anyway, we ought to send that along to her.
Yes, I'll forward that to you.
And I have already forwarded that to to Senator Wolf, since he's on that was it that regional committee, and asked him how does he think this will help us, as a regional government, and I'd be very interested to see what his response is.
Okay.
He's also on telecommunications and energy, which is another important thing for us. And there's a lot of stuff that he's on that we've got to keep track of.
So I'll forward that email. It's the availability of once it's established, has to pass, has to be funded.
Right.
But they're trying to set up regional technical assistance grants, Darlene, that would be available. So I'll forward the email on to you.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's good that the state is finally coming forth with some kind of funding for regionalization. I mean, they've been talking about it forever.
Well, they've been using those DLTA.
Yeah, but
funds.
still,
I know.
I mean, this is
they
now at the
transform
highest
them
level.
When
regional
is this, when are
services.
these funds are going to be available?
They have to be, they're not
Approved yet.
approved,
Oh,
in the
they're not
budget
being-
process.
they're in the
They wouldn't be
legislative.
for next
Proactive.
fiscal year till after July 1, if it comes out.
If they approve it, right.
Oh, there was an 11% increase in state income this month. Thought you'd like to know. It was on the radio this morning.
Excellent.
One of
Did
the
that in my
other
house.
things that AmeriCorps has, we've been doing this now for, I don't know, 11 of the 12 or 13 years that we've been here, is that we've started off with Harwich and been doing Harwich, the town of Harwich, a week of service with the town of Harwich, called Blitz Week. And-
Thompson Field.
Thompson Field. And since then, we've had discussions with staff in other towns about, some of the other towns are saying, why not us, now. So we are looking at, we're going to continue with Harwich this year for the Blitz, but I think we've put together the capacity of the town to be able to do this without us. As, because they've definitely developed this, it's very successful and they're going pretty good. So we've been looking at this idea with another town. Now this year, AmeriCorps Week, we're going to be working with the town of Orleans for the entire week of AmeriCorps Week. But we, if we're trying to look at how we would select the town, would one of the towns be interested in being, the week that we feature, like Harwich Blitz Week for the towns, and they seem to be interested in this, and that might be something.
So a Blitz Week, God bless you.
Sorry, thank you.
So you'll go in and for a week you sort of focus on the projects that they need. So you just go in and say, okay, we'll clean up everything or do anything you want. Just give us,
we bring in,
point us
well,
in the
we
direction,
also,
and we'll put all our resources in this town.
we've been, for the town of Barnstable last year when we did the
Bless
mitigation
you.
nursery there across from Craigville Beach there.
Right.
That we also applied for a grant. We put some county money to it from our match fund. It worked out really well because here you have the member that's assigned with the town of Barnstable, working with their service partner, the town, then coming through with the grant, $15,000 in the grant plus some of the match dollars that we had with the county. And here you now have a nice week with a week of service. This is quite a big project.
That was the mitigation garden, wasn't it?
Right.
It was to attenuate. It was like
Yeah,
natural
and
attenuation.
all the signage was paid for,
Right.
and the plants and all the labor through the AmeriCorps members plus the community volunteers. So it's quite a project, a service project. It's
I
not
wanted to get
just
that kickoff on
you
that.
know.
Time period that you're going to do this?
Well,
did you say?
for
Not this week.
no. It's been typically it's in April or AmeriCorps Week is always in May.
Oh, yeah.
So and this year we know we're doing
Like the achievement because it's at the end of their, the AmeriCorps year. They're getting ready to sort of wrap up.
Yeah, it's the 7th, I think the 7th of May through the 14th is AmeriCorps Week. And hopefully the state will have the funds again and we'll apply for those. And I also was talking to the staff yesterday and saying that, Bill Clark or some of the other departments may have something that they can add to the resources, to the resource pool, so that we can do more for Orleans.
Right.
So, because Orleans is the town. So now we're going to, and look at the other departments and say, we haven't done that in the past. And I think that we
I
can
think
do
it's a
that.
very good idea.
And then here's an opportunity for all of us to kind of jump in on a town and provide a lot of resources for that week with the AmeriCorps members and some grant dollars. And
That sounds exactly like the original request for AmeriCorps. Back in the day when we talked about providing management services for helping towns achieve say individual objectives, that the AmeriCorps people would be not necessarily more laborers, but more, providing some management and organizational skills in order to deliver that. So that's been what I would call a historic and traditional service that, that Americorps.
And I think that the towns are starting to see now that what a resource this can be. I mean, I think they underestimate what we can do in a week with, concentrated efforts and then some grant funds, and so I think we have some information from the town of Orleans, and as that comes, I'll share that with you so you can see what they're requesting.
That'd be great.
It's with the Orleans Tree Department that we're doing.
They've got some new people in that department too, as I recall, because they had a retirement last year.
Yeah.
In the department head meetings, you should. We haven't been. We really should attend. We should rotate attending those meetings. Just a side opinion, but anyway, that is a good time to bring that up with all the different department heads and say, look, this is what we do. This is and where is there ways? Are there other people that can tie into this?
Well,
or you
usually
can add to this resources?
I'll think of things like I know that
but they may think
Bill
of things
has a
they're not
good
thinking of.
relationship with the town and with
Right.
so I just naturally would talk to Bill Clark. But I think as we were thinking about this, there may be other things that the other departments may
Exactly.
have.
Right. I mean, the commission's involved with different stuff as far as the water and the
Right.
traffic and all of those things, and the health department. I mean, there might be a way of
Yeah.
tying in and getting a big.
Okay.
What percentage of what your office does is for the towns, and what percentage is for the county? And take Americorps out of it, because I know that would be like, it's all for the towns for the
Right.
most part.
Yeah.
So if you took Americorps out, how much of what how would you,
I would say half and half because
half and half?
And that's only because we've been able to have the additional resource development officers. Before we really couldn't keep up anything much more than the management of the grants. Right now we're low. We're concentrating on the audit and the grants management right now, but we'll pull right back out of that, and then we have 2 development officers dedicated to management and to development, to writing and outreach. So it's half and half right now, without Americorps.
Without Americorps?
Yeah.
Okay, well, getting back to the, to the substance of it, let's say a scan of this essentially suggests that you're not adding any activities at this point that are different.
The only other thing in the Resource Development Office that I requested is additional money for a database.
Is that what the
Yes, that's the
software
10,000.
hardware?
Yes.
Can you tell us what you're doing?
It's I've been thinking about this for a couple of years of putting a performance management database in so we can measure our performance on service and the volunteer. I mean, we're really getting a huge number of service partners, project volunteers, and
Keep track.
Yeah.
Help you keep track and which ones
Purchase it, yeah.
which partnerships are successful, which ones.
Right,
Yeah, so you
right.
can analyze what it is you're actually.
Exactly,
The
and
output.
we're being asked for more and more and more specific information for different things.
Are you analyzing the investment of time and energy to pursue a project as far as the, your probability of success? Because one of the things that that I did when I was managing a company, did a lot of USAID work, was that we would see a whole list of things that we could go after, but we would select those ones that had the highest probability of success or outcomes, and we would invest the time and energy too. Now, do you take that approach now that you have seen an increase in the amount of activity? For example, you advise the town that although this might be an interesting project, your likelihood of being successful is...
We do, Bill, but they oftentimes don't care and want to still go forward.
I see. And of those ones that you go forward, what has been your hit rate?
I don't have that. I don't calculate.
Is this part
that.
of what you would,
Yes, I think with the database we could do more with our performance and bring out, the query. We could get the information out that we're looking to get. It's getting more and more and more. I think it's the time for
Is
it.
this something that if the county purchased, is it a license for one? You know, sometimes you pay a large amount for a license for X number of users, and then to add on other users, say it works and other departments want to use it, or you haven't gotten into that level
I
of
haven't
detail?
got, the ones that I reviewed and I like so far and I've seen is efforts to outcomes. And I haven't heard all the details about it, Maggie, but I do think I could find all that out and bring that back to the table.
I'm just curious.
You know, as you develop more of this, there's been some what I'd call some simple, let's say, what I call fairly simple tools, to do the analysis. The one that I saw at MMA that I think I've spoken about is the so-called power pair, where we're among a range of opportunity. You take a look at what has not only there's another element, not only the ones that have the highest degree of success, which are the ones that have the highest degree of probability of positive contribution to our mission and our vision. So that it's, maybe that's one of the things that we need to talk more about.
Most of the time, we're able to help the towns when they need the help. I mean, it's rarely that we have to turn anybody down, or sometimes it's they're applying to the same funder.
In applying to the same funder, do you take the opportunity to suggest that they partner?
Sometimes, but sometimes it's for totally different projects, so they're still competing against each other.
Okay. Because that's one of the things that I found that when there's an application for funds, if there's some sort of, let's say, partnership that's involved, it makes a more successful application.
Definitely, it does.
Okay, so there's only 2 items according to the black type here on that page, and I don't see anything else that is other than just level funding.
Yep. The Americorps, I put a little more in the gas line for members. We have 26
Is that the fuel match? I don't understand all of the matches. Like it will say wastewater, sewer, Americorps, city.
That's
county.
for the house in Bourne.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I see. Those are the houses.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Okay. And the transportation also is for.
That's
Members-
reimbursement
member
for them
mi-
moving around.
members.
We don't have any vehicles for them, do we?
No,
We
No.
reimburse them a certain amount for their mileage.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're asking for an
they
increase.
get a flat rate. They don't put in miles. They
Right,
just
it's a flat rate.
Vehicle, that's
Yeah.
the vehicle fuel. And,
Plus, we have a Americorps van, but it's on its last legs.
Okay. So we should probably keep an eye out for one if there's.
Oh, yeah, we've been trying to do that. I've asked the sheriff and I've asked everybody, but we continue to fix the van. And we've applied for 2 or 3 grants and struck out on that one. But we'll keep trying on that.
Before Darlene leaves, I just want to say that we met each other yesterday at the National Seashore Visitor Center because they are planning their 50th anniversary of the National Seashore 50 years ago today. This year, that legislation went forward on August 7th, I believe. So that's going to be the big day of rededication of the National Seashore and that sort of thing. And so they're asking to, any organization that's willing to put out the banner. They have this really, we should have brought out the logo. They have a really nice rendition of, the Cape Cod against the lighthouse and National Seashore 50 years. And we thought that maybe it might be nice to have something like that hanging from here and helping advertise.
Hanging from where?
Well, we can put it outside somewhere. They're not like, they're not going to drape the whole building, but it would be something that, it's like a flag that we would put up on their behalf.
Or even inside in the corridor.
Or even in the corridor, just to
Have to see it.
help people be aware that
Well,
this is
I
50
haven't
years
seen
of the
them, but
National
they're very
Seashore.
nice.
God bless you.
That's really a great idea because in the town that my daughter lives in, when you go into town, they have this big banner that is across the top of the street, and it tells you something important that's going on.
Right.
I wonder if we should talk to the town of Barnstable as to whether or not we could set something like that
Yeah.
up, because it would make more sense to be on the street than up here, because
Right.
the only people that come up here are on
Right.
business, and down there you get the traffic that
Right.
goes on.
Right,
It's
and
a
it would
good
be, it would be a great help to them and just it's our
You
national
don't know what
treasure.
size it is.
I mean, when you think about what the Outer Cape would look like if that hadn't
They
happened.
haven't ordered them yet. I think they're going to be, fairly big.
Yeah.
Well, in any case, even if we can't put it
They're
across
nice looking.
across
Yeah,
the
they're really
street,
pretty.
perhaps we could mounted so that it's between two standards out
Yep.
front.
Right,
you know,
out on the
like-
lawn, maybe
Because I
here
mean,
or something.
we do that with political stuff.
Right.
We have these big banners for the rotaries.
Right.
So maybe we could get something like that and just put it
Well,
out there.
there, it's the seashore.
Well, the seashore would get the
Seashore.
banner for us, and we
Right.
could decide where to
That'd
put
be great.
it. 'cause
Yeah,
that's-
well, that's what I mean. We
Right.
could just get, because I think what I'd used was I just went down to Home Depot and got those 9-foot
Yeah.
green stakes.
Right, and you just put them out, and it would
Yeah.
be great
Yeah,
of
you
you.
could just put it out there, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and we could probably have them
Congratulations,
help
I
them.
think that's a great
Okay,
idea.
well, good.
You
I'm
follow
sure
that up to make sure
We'll
we
follow
get
that
that
up, Darlene, and we'll
Yeah, great.
we'll get a big banner.
Well, and also to, we've had a long-standing partnership with the county has had a long-standing partnership with the park and also with the Americorps. So we will feature a few pages in the report to the community that we do at the end of the year will be dedicated to service that we provided for the seashore and
Right.
kind of like commemorating the National Seashore. And then we have 2 or 3 service days, all-day service days that we'll be doing in the park on their different celebration days.
Yes, and so there'll be a lot of, there's a lot of notoriety for AmeriCorps and for the National Seashore
Well,
at the same time.
I might as well bring it up now and talk about it later, but I got communication from the Federal Trade Commission because March is Consumer Protection Month, and they're asking for something similar to that, putting out banners and stuff.
I think that's a very good thing for us to be able to help people be aware of
I
in
think
that
so.
type of.
Especially in the consumer protection thing, that's something that, we're very concerned with and
Right.
we're trying to support. But anyway, that's all part of it. So let's get back to this budget.
Well, it looks like Pat has something.
I just have another question. Do you have any relationship in terms of coordination of grants with the EDC, or do they handle it pretty much by
The commission's
themselves?
been doing that since they took that over, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I just,
Before
Did they
that-
partner with you before that?
Yeah, the EDC was given the responsibility of grant management in order to give Dan Gray an opportunity, by the way, you misspelled his name on that, to give him an opportunity to do more contact with, with the community and do the piece of the outreach. And the RDO was given that responsibility for grant
I'm
management.
just asking, because I'm looking at, significant relationships.
Right, and I think it would be good for the commission, for like Patty Daly, for you to really have a talk about where you can assist each other in some of these endeavors, because it looks like you're looking at similar things sometimes.
Darlene, can I ask a clarification on that? And EDC manages, or DeAndre oversees if they're going to do an
The
RFP
license plate
for
rates, yeah.
license plate funds. But once an award is made to an entity and a contract is signed, who's responsible for
They're
managing it?
managing those grants now.
So they took that back from RDO
RDO last year.
because,
Last year.
Yeah, that's when we put the money over to the
Okay, I-
EDC.
no, actually that's not true.
No.
They had the money before that.
This is
So-
license plate money.
They had the license plate money, so who's responsible for overseeing the contract management of that? Is it DeAndre himself?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Leslie?
so that's an excellent point. There's a replication.
Well, that's what I'm looking at,
Yeah,
I'm just looking at, well, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm
No,
just looking
right,
at
right.
where grant making occurs in the county and its various
When it was,
arms.
when this was taken back, it was Gail Coyne, so I don't know who's.
Yeah, I don't either, but we can.
And indeed, we did bring that up when we were talking to Mark Morris last time about, I'll say about
Looking at-
coordination among the, these entities that were looking at similar outcomes. So hopefully that's another organizational issue.
Well, it could be, and it may not be, I don't know, but it's just
That's what-
something
we have to look at.
think
We're
about.
looking at.
Yeah.
One of the other things I wanted to let you know too is, I'll give you a copy of this. This is our continuation proposal that was submitted for the Americorps program, has been put in, and included in this is 6 additional members that for the fire corps. It will be, they'll serve through the Park Service in the management division with regional fire mitigation service activities. And this is also, I talked to Bill Clark about this as well, so it will also be working in cooperation with Bill Clark and Dave Crary at the Park Service, and they're very excited about this. They put the cash match up, so there was no additional county money for this. They're also providing the house for the members to live in.
Well, they are, because that's a,
Yeah.
and now, are they supplying an additional house, because that other house was pretty crowded?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we could never put
Yeah,
not
exactly.
one single
This
more
is a
member in
huge
it.
issue for Cape Cod because it's highly
Yes.
risk what?
It's a high-risk area.
High-risk
Yes,
area. We've been saying this for
burns.
some
And
time.
the fire departments have been doing, the local fire departments, where they're, for the various open spaces around.
Mm-hmm.
I know in Falmouth, the BB Woods, which is like 350 acres, it's a huge concern for the fire department. They have to always keep the brush cleared and cut and all of that. So this is a high priority issue
Yes,
for
it
sure
is, and
on
we're,
all of Cape Cod.
yeah, and it's a critical need, and we've heard this over and over again. It was just, there was not an opportunity to do it, and then the opportunity came, and so it's not a competitive round. I'm hoping that the corporation doesn't view this as too new. It's a continuation, so it has to be approved. We won't know till April.
Okay, well,
And who do you-
this ties in with the, with the support that we've given to conservation land management, which is not included with the, what was it, the Community Preservation Act funds, because of the increased amount of land that's going into conservation, the increased risk of unmanaged land without a plan that, that takes into account the, the danger of wildfire, because there's so much more unsupervised, unmanaged, property that is supposed to be in conservation, but there's not an investment in the, let's say, in the oversight for it. So that's all part of what we're trying to do.
So where does the funding come from? Like who gets-
Americorps, it would come from the Corporation for
Right.
National Community Service for the
Okay.
members, and they would pay the members. We would bring the members in. The house would come through the seashore, and then the additional match money that we needed to match the member living allowance came from the seashore. So that, and you have to have special permission for that because it's federal dollars to match a federal grant.
So this is to,
This is good.
yeah.
This is really good.
And
It's gonna
this,
cost
and
the
this,
county.
and
Yeah.
this perpetuates or continues the wonderful relationship that we've had with the National Seashore for these many years, because this is only one other program that, that they've supported the interest of the community with.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Okay,
we're
Maggie,
excited
did you
about
have any
that.
questions for,
No, I'm
How
good.
did you get your name, Office of Resource Development?
It was through a grant.
There's a
through
grant.
the,
It was through a grant?
Department
EOCD.
of Housing, EOCD, back in '93.
Hurry.
So the grant helped establish,
The county.
At the
That's
time,
exactly what they're
it was one
doing now.
position.
Everything, stay around long enough, everything comes around again.
Well, that's why we have to look at some things.
They're
well,
the
this
funds
is
that were
old wine
established.
in new bottles, as
Right,
they
the
say.
funds that were used to establish the Resource Development Office are very similar to the funds, and then they went away. They were no longer funded.
and now they're coming back through the state regional grant,
It was
if
the
in
same
fact it gets
concept.
voted on by the
This
legislature.
office was established specifically for assisting regionally for two purposes. One, because the county's grant management process was in disarray, and there was a need and a request from the towns for assistance with grant writing and grant management. So that's why the office was created. It was funded for a year and a half, and then funded by Barnstable County, and it continues to expand through regional services such as Americorps.
These are where the Americorps members are going to be at the Board of Selectmen meeting talking about services,
yes.
and when we try to get the resource development officers out there too, so that we can kind of like tell them
I
what's
happened
So-
to attend the one that was in Harwich, and there was a wonderful reception by that Board of Selectmen. I guess about a month ago, that they showed up over there, and there was much appreciation expressed, at that particular one.
And they've already been in Wellfleet, or has it just not been scheduled?
Yeah,
They have
we
been,
have
okay.
And then these are little highlights for you on your travels to see what's going on with the members and what we're doing with service.
And by the way, they were wonderful at the Martin Luther King event.
Oh yeah, thank you for being there. It was great. Yeah. And then these are, I don't know if you want these. These are where the members are now. Do you need these?
I think
Is that
it's
too much
helpful.
information? Yes,
I think it's good.
we've got them color coded so you can see, you know, county, state, federal.
Right.
Nice to have in the file.
Yeah,
It is
and
very
it
good.
kind of, you can
gave
also
mine.
see where they are.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That's
that's
okay, I
what
gave
did
it to you.
to,
No.
Yeah.
That's the human, you know, that's the human part of all of this, right?
Yeah. So, this gives you a sense of how they're spread out throughout the Cape. And these are their service that they do, individual placements, and those are scheduled Tuesday through Thursday. And then their group services that they do are, you know, regional throughout the Cape. And those come in on separate proposals for Mondays and Fridays. And then here's a breakup of the county money, of the grant, so you can kind of see. These are just the typical things I give you
Right.
each year, kind of like see where we are. And I don't know if you want a list of the grants that we manage too. I don't want to give you too much information. And then this was about the Martin Luther King Day service. We've already know about that. Okay.
Excellent.
Anybody have any more questions?
I think you're doing a wonderful job.
Yeah. And I think your idea of software to keep track of
Yes.
Oh,
I'm sure
good.
it's getting to be
Glad.
very
Yes,
big.
it is, it is.
in this day and age,
Yeah.
it's the best way to do it.
I fear how you, do you have to, you know, how much, I'll find out more, how much do you have to have a person tracking and, you know, it's kind of like,
Not labor intensive.
yeah, we'll see how many, we have a lot of talent usually coming in from the Americorps staff.
Well, one of the things, I'm not going to suggest that they do timesheets, but, you know, it might be useful for people to, you know, to, let's say, at the end of a period, as to how their time is allocated, and just, you know, just keep track of that. And that's something that just would lend itself to a simple spreadsheet on, you know, so many hours in, and then, you know, some brief description of what, you know, what the overall project was. And I think that at the end of time, it's at the end of the service period, you know, you then can look at not only the, you know, the quantity of hours, but also, you know, some idea of how, you know, how those hours were split up. And I think that tends to support one of the, you know, one of the issues with regard to tracking, you know, what the activities are.
I wanted to share with one other thing, a couple other things. One is the Alumni Association. We have a huge resource with the alumni of Americorps Cape Cod now. And so we have put together a luncheon that's going to happen in February to start this association. We're also looking for grant money to put together a more formal association for networking, for service projects that they can be involved in. Many of these members are now in leadership roles.
I was going to say that some of them are it's been 10, 12 years now since they've moved on, so they're in their 30s.
Yep.
And have probably established
And
in whatever
quite
careers.
Impressive what some of them have been able to accomplish. So we're working on that. And I think the other part of this is that amazing second-year members in Wellfleet came together this October. Now, we were short-staffed. We didn't have as much time as we'd like to have had to put something together, but they came together, all of them. Now, this is from year 2. Came to the Cape, did a service project together. Even their supervisor was there. I could not believe it. I mean, having them come back,
feeling for them,
come back together, and they're all in great places now. So we're going to start featuring, as part of our newsletter and in the report to the community, an alumni, a couple pages dedicated to the alumni page and what they've been doing.
Right, where are they now?
With service.
Right, excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent, that's really good.
Okay.
Well, we should,
And I think
should know how
Americorps would
many
appreciate that too,
people-
because it really just goes to show how valuable this is in helping kids figure out where their passions lie and how.
Well, I think it's also a good recruiting mechanism. I mean, people see that if I spend a year in Americorps, look what it will do for me in the future.
Right.
And
And
they
what
network.
opportunities,
Yeah,
and the
and
networking
networking.
too. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
How many
And they're
are
still
working for the county
service-minded.
now?
They're still very service-minded.
You know, there was an article in, I forget, it could have been the New York Times or the Globe or something about young people today. They are very, oh, it was in the Globe this past week, how service-minded they are. And even those in college, they're volunteering in homeless shelters, they're volunteering in all sorts of places in the city because they have this need to provide service to the community in some fashion. And that age group is the one that is really doing it all. And I'm thinking, so if you wanted volunteers, particularly, I'm thinking of the college, and we don't have a four-year college actually, but it's the colleges and the universities, and in the towns where there are cities where those universities are, where the students are really getting out there and volunteering.
I just want to just correct one thing. We do have a four-year college in Cape Cod.
Yes,
It's
that's
called,
true, we do, I know, Suffolk, yes.
No,
No.
I think it's called the Mass Maritime.
Oh, Mass Maritime.
It is a four-year
Well,
college, and their students do participate and do volunteer time, on the Cape. So I know that we
I
pass
would
over them
expect.
because
Right.
we don't
Because they're
really-
in Bourne and it's the other side of the canal, that's right.
Well, you're closer to them.
I know.
Actually, Bourne is on both sides of the canal, as they
Yep.
remind us.
But you're right, because they do all of, on that Oyster Festival, they
Yeah, that's
man
true.
most of those.
But
I
it's
don't
something to
wanna
think
slight
about
them.
is that this is something that is occurring now and it's being noticed.
Right.
And we did also submit, just so you know, for two more VISTA volunteers, one to continue to build the capacity of the Human Services Department and the 211 line, and the volunteer to continue the work with the Cape Cod volunteers. So this is kind of like a carry on from the two.
Timing, darling, on hearing.
Generally, you don't hear from them till around April.
Okay.
The last VISTA volunteer we had in the Human Service Department, married Maureen, is down in Pensacola. Do you hear from her?
Yeah, we pretty much hear from all of these people. They kind of like
She was
to
really
get-
a wonderful part of that organization.
they're
Holy
very
cross
good.
bread.
Yeah. And then we also dedicated a little in memory of Sergeant Shriver because of his
Oh,
leadership and
Right.
vision with the Peace Corps Head Start, VISTA,
That's very important.
Special Olympics for graduation, and hoping that Bill's going to be on our advisory board now,
Yes, I am.
and hoping
Unfortunately,
that you
this
can talk
Friday-
at graduation in July
Have you
a
set
little
that
bit
date
about
already?
that 50.
I'll
Yeah,
do
we
that.
have that date. Now, I don't.
This Friday, I think your meeting, unfortunately, I'm teaching that day, so I'm not able to go.
That's okay, we'll keep you up on it. I just wanted to make, we wanted to talk a little bit about the park service, the 50 years of the park, and then also, just to say a few words from the commissioners. Oh, it's 28th of July.
Okay, good.
Okay. And that's my spiel now.
All right.
Excellent.
Well, we'll
Thank you.
take into account all of the wonderful things that you've done, and hopefully, as we sort this out, we'll be able to support as much as we can.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
for everything.
All right.
Thanks, darling, nice job.
Yeah, thanks.
See, well,
You can leave that there.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Stacy's coming
yeah.
up.
we could start early, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
She's
before we
here.
start another segment, can I take a tape change?
Yeah.